Elena Martinez hurried down the marble corridor of the Grand Plaza Hotel, her heels clicking against the polished floor as she balanced a stack of fresh towels in her arms. The luxury hotel buzzed with activity even at this late hour, but the executive floor remained eerily quiet. She had been working as a housekeeper here for 6 months, and tonight felt different somehow. The 22-year-old woman moved with practiced efficiency, checking her list of rooms that needed attention. Room 2847 was her final stop before heading home to her small apartment. Elena had been working double shifts to pay for her younger brother's medical bills, and exhaustion weighed heavily on her shoulders. As she approached the elevator bank, Elena noticed several men in expensive suits standing near the emergency exit. Their presence seemed out of place for this time of night. She kept her head down, focusing on her work, but couldn't shake the feeling that something unusual was happening on this floor. The hotel's general manager, Mr. Richardson, had given strict instructions to the housekeeping staff about maintaining absolute discretion regarding certain guests. Elena never asked questions, but she had noticed increased security measures over the past few weeks. Men with concealed weapons, hushed conversations in foreign languages, and guests who never seemed to leave their rooms during daylight hours. Elena inserted her keycard into room 2847 and entered quietly. The suite was magnificent, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a breathtaking view of the city skyline. Crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows across imported furniture, and the air carried the faint scent of expensive cologne and cigarettes. She began her routine, replacing towels in the bathroom and straightening the already immaculate living area. The suite appeared untouched, as if its occupant lived like a ghost. Elena had learned not to be curious about the guests' personal belongings, but she couldn't help noticing the expensive watches on the dresser and documents scattered across the mahogany desk. As she worked, Elena heard voices echoing from the hallway. The conversation sounded tense, conducted in hushed tones that suggested urgency. She continued her tasks, hoping to finish quickly and leave unnoticed. The last thing she wanted was to encounter guests who valued their privacy above all else. The voices grew closer, and Elena realized they were heading toward this very suite. Panic seized her chest as she looked around the spacious room, searching for somewhere to hide. She couldn't be caught here when the guests arrived. Her job depended on invisibility and efficiency. Elena quickly gathered her cleaning supplies and headed toward the service exit. But the sound of a keycard being inserted into the main door stopped her in her tracks. She was trapped, standing in the middle of the opulent living room with nowhere to go. The door opened, and 3 men entered the suite. Elena froze, clutching her supplies as she tried to make herself as small as possible. The men were deep in conversation about shipping schedules and territorial agreements, words that meant nothing to her but carried obvious importance to them. The man leading the group was younger than she expected, perhaps in his early 30s, with dark hair and piercing eyes that seemed to miss nothing. His expensive suit was perfectly tailored, and he carried himself with the confidence of someone accustomed to command and control. When his gaze fell on Elena, the room fell silent. "What do we have here?" he asked, his voice carrying a slight accent that Elena couldn't identify. His tone wasn't angry, but it held an authority that made her knees weak. One of the other men stepped forward aggressively. "Boss, I'll take care of this. She shouldn't be here." The leader raised his hand slightly, a gesture that immediately stopped his subordinate. His eyes never left Elena's face as he studied her with unsettling intensity. She felt exposed under his scrutiny, as if he could read her thoughts and fears. "What's your name?" he asked, moving closer with predatory grace.
"Elena,"
she whispered, her voice barely audible.
"Elena Martinez. I work here. I was just finishing the cleaning."
He nodded slowly, considering her words.
"And what exactly did you hear during your cleaning, Elena Martinez?"
The question hung in the air like a threat. Elena's mind raced, understanding that her answer could determine her fate. She had indeed overheard fragments of their conversation, but admitting that seemed dangerous. "Nothing, sir. I was focused on my work. I don't speak much English anyway," she lied, hoping her nervous demeanor would support the deception. The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Interesting. Your English sounds quite good to me." Elena's heart hammered against her ribs as she realized her mistake. The leader circled her slowly, like a shark evaluating its prey. His presence dominated the room, making the spacious suite feel suddenly cramped and airless. "You know," he continued conversationally, "trust is everything in my business. When that trust is broken, consequences follow swiftly." The implication was clear, and Elena felt tears threatening to spill from her eyes. She thought of her brother Miguel, who depended on her income for his treatment. She thought of her mother, who would never know what happened if Elena simply disappeared. "Please," she whispered, "I won't tell anyone anything. I just need this job." The leader stopped directly in front of her, so close she could smell his expensive cologne and see the gold threads woven into his tie. When he spoke, his voice was surprisingly gentle. "What I'm going to do with you requires careful consideration. You've seen faces tonight that most people never see. You've heard names that could cause problems if repeated." Elena nodded frantically, desperate to convince him of her discretion. "I swear on my family's life I'll never say anything. Please just let me go home." He studied her for a long moment, then turned to one of his men. "Marco, what's your assessment?" Marco, a thick-set man with scarred hands, shrugged. "She's a risk, Vincent. Simple as that." Vincent. Elena now knew the name of the man who held her life in his hands. She filed it away automatically, even as she tried to project complete innocence. Vincent walked to the window, gazing out at the city lights below. The silence stretched uncomfortably as his associates waited for his decision. Elena remained frozen in place, afraid that any movement might tip the scales against her. "There's something about you," Vincent said finally, still looking out the window. "Something that suggests you're more than just a housekeeper who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time." Elena's breath caught in her throat. How could he possibly know about her past? She had worked so hard to bury her previous life, to become invisible in this city where nobody asked questions about backgrounds or immigration status. When Vincent turned back to face her, his expression had shifted. The predatory intensity remained, but something else had joined it. Curiosity, perhaps even intrigue. "Tell me, Elena Martinez," he said, pronouncing her name with careful precision, "what brought you to cleaning hotel rooms when you clearly have the intelligence for more challenging work?" The question surprised her. Most people in her position never looked beyond her uniform and accent. But Vincent saw something others missed, and that realization both thrilled and terrified her. "I need the money," she answered honestly. "My brother is sick, and the bills are expensive." "And before this job?" Elena hesitated. Her past was complicated, involving skills and knowledge that could indeed make her valuable to the wrong people. But admitting that seemed even more dangerous than staying silent. "I went to school," she said carefully. "But opportunities are limited for people like me." Vincent nodded as if her answer confirmed something he already suspected. He moved to the bar and poured himself a glass of amber liquid, the ice clinking softly against the crystal. "Marco, take the others and wait outside," he commanded without looking away from Elena. "Boss, I don't think—" "Outside," Vincent repeated, his tone brooking no argument. The men reluctantly filed out, leaving Elena alone with the most dangerous person she had ever encountered. The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken possibilities. Vincent sipped his drink, studying her over the rim of the glass. "You're afraid," he observed. "Yes," Elena admitted, seeing no point in pretending otherwise. "Good. Fear keeps people alive in my world, but so does opportunity. Elena frowned, unsure where this conversation was leading. Vincent set down his glass and moved closer again. But this time his approach felt different, less predatory, more calculating. I have a proposition for you, Elena Martinez, one that could solve your financial problems and put your obviously underutilized skills to better use. What kind of proposition? Vincent smiled, and this time the expression seemed genuine. The kind that could change your life completely. But first, I need to know more about who you really are. Elena realized she stood at a crossroads. She could continue lying, hoping to convince him she was nothing more than a simple housekeeper, or she could take a risk that might save her brother's life but cost her everything else. The city lights twinkled beyond the windows, and Elena made her choice. Elena took a deep breath, knowing that her next words would determine everything. I studied computer science and finance at university in Columbia before my family moved here. I specialized in digital security systems and data analysis. Vincent's eyebrows raised slightly, the first sign of genuine surprise she had seen from him. Impressive. And now you're cleaning hotel rooms. My degree isn't recognized here, and without proper documentation, legitimate technology companies won't hire me. I needed work immediately when my brother got sick. Vincent walked to his laptop, which sat open on the mahogany desk. Show me, he said simply. Elena hesitated. Show you what? Your skills. This laptop contains encrypted files that have been giving my technology consultant headaches for weeks. If you're as capable as your education suggests, prove it. Elena approached the desk cautiously, her cleaning supplies forgotten on the floor. The laptop screen displayed a complex encryption interface that she recognized immediately. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard as she analyzed the challenge before her. This is military-grade encryption, she observed. Whoever designed this security system knew what they were doing. Can you break it? Elena studied the code structure, her mind automatically processing patterns and potential vulnerabilities. Despite the dangerous situation, she felt a familiar excitement at being presented with a genuine technical challenge. Maybe, she said carefully, but it would take time, and I'd need to understand why you want access to these files. Vincent moved to stand behind her, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from his body. Those files contain information about someone who betrayed my organization, someone who stole money and endangered lives. Elena's fingers began moving across the keyboard, testing different approaches to the encryption. And when you find this person, justice will be served. The ambiguity of his answer wasn't lost on Elena, but she found herself drawn into the technical puzzle despite her reservations. Her skills had been dormant for too long, and using them again felt like breathing after being underwater. As she worked, Vincent observed her with growing interest. Her initial fear had transformed into focused concentration, revealing a competence that impressed him. This was not the scared housekeeper who had been caught in his suite an hour earlier. You're enjoying this, he observed. I've missed using my brain for something meaningful, Elena admitted without looking up from the screen. After 30 minutes of careful work, Elena managed to crack the first layer of encryption. The files revealed financial transactions, shipping manifests, and communication records that painted a clear picture of organized criminal activity. Vincent leaned over her shoulder to read the data, his proximity making Elena's pulse quicken for reasons that had nothing to do with fear. Excellent work. How much more time do you need? Another hour, maybe 2, to access the deeper files. Vincent straightened and moved to the window again, his mind clearly working through possibilities. Elena, what I'm about to offer you is dangerous, but it's also an opportunity to use your skills for something more significant than cleaning hotel rooms. Elena saved her progress and turned to face him. What are you offering? A job. Working for my organization, using your technical expertise to solve problems and protect operations. The pay would be more than enough to cover your brother's medical expenses. And the dangers? Vincent's expression grew serious. My business has enemies. People who work for me sometimes become targets, but I protect my people and loyal service is rewarded generously. Elena understood she was being recruited into a criminal organization, but the alternative was watching her brother die while she scrubbed toilets for minimum wage. The moral implications weighed heavily on her conscience. "What exactly is your business?" she asked. "Import and export," Vincent replied with a slight smile that suggested the reality was more complicated. "Of what?" "Various goods that people want, but can't always obtain through conventional channels." Elena recognized the euphemism but pressed for clarity. "Illegal goods?" Vincent considered his answer carefully. "I prefer to think of it as providing services that governments have arbitrarily declared forbidden. My customers are willing participants in voluntary transactions." The rationalization was sophisticated, but Elena wasn't naive. Still, the opportunity to save her brother's life and escape the grinding poverty that had defined her existence in America was powerfully tempting. "I need to think about this," she said. "Of course. But while you're thinking, finish accessing those files. Consider it a trial run." Elena returned to the laptop, her mind racing as her fingers worked automatically. She thought about Miguel lying in his hospital bed, about her mother working 3 jobs to make ends meet, about the dreams she had abandoned when they fled Colombia. As the encryption barriers fell one by one under her skilled assault, Elena uncovered a story of betrayal that shocked her. The stolen money belonged to a children's hospital fund that Vincent's organization had been secretly supporting. The betrayer wasn't just a business rival. He was someone who had stolen from sick children. "This man stole money meant for children's medical care," Elena said, looking up at Vincent with new understanding. "Now you see why finding him is personal for me." Elena's perception of Vincent shifted slightly. The dangerous criminal was also someone who funded children's health care. The moral landscape suddenly seemed less clear-cut. "My organization isn't what you probably imagine," Vincent continued. "Yes, we operate outside the law, but we also protect people who can't protect themselves. We fund schools, hospitals, and community programs in neighborhoods that governments have forgotten." A benevolent criminal organization? A practical one. Communities that prosper don't turn against us. Children who receive medical care grow up remembering kindness. It's good business and the right thing to do. Elena found the final encryption key and accessed the deepest files. The betrayer's current location, financial assets, and planned escape route were all laid bare on the screen. "Found him," she announced. Vincent moved quickly to read the information, his expression hardening as he absorbed the details. "Perfect! You've just saved my organization weeks of searching." Elena felt a mixture of pride and unease at her success. She had proven her value, but also made herself indispensable to people who solved problems through violence. Vincent pulled out his phone and made several calls, speaking in rapid Italian to coordinate a response to the intelligence Elena had uncovered. She understood enough to realize that the betrayer would be found within hours. When he finished his calls, Vincent returned his attention to Elena. "You've impressed me tonight, both with your skills and your character. I'm prepared to make you an offer that goes beyond simple employment." "What do you mean?" "Join my inner circle. Become someone I trust with the most sensitive operations. Your technical skills combined with your intelligence and discretion make you valuable in ways you can't imagine." Elena understood the significance of what he was offering. This wasn't just a job, it was an invitation into his world, with all the power and danger that entailed. "And if I refuse?" Vincent's expression didn't change, but something cold flickered in his eyes. You've seen and heard too much to simply walk away, but I believe you're too smart to make that choice. The threat was subtle but unmistakable. Elena realized that her old life had ended the moment she walked into this suite. Her only choice was what direction her new life would take. I want protection for my family, she said. Whatever happens to me, they stay safe. Agreed. They'll be moved to a better neighborhood under my protection. Your brother will receive the best medical care available. Elena felt tears threatening again, but this time they were tears of relief. Miguel would live. Her family would be safe. The price was her own freedom, but it was a price she was willing to pay. There's one more condition, Vincent said. You'll need to disappear from your current life completely. Elena Martinez, the housekeeper, must vanish. You'll become someone new. Who will I become? Vincent smiled, and Elena saw genuine warmth in his expression for the first time. Someone important, someone valued, someone who belongs in my world. As dawn broke over the city, Elena realized she was crossing a threshold from which there would be no return. But for the first time in months, she felt hope blooming in her chest. What happens now? She asked. Vincent moved closer, his hand gently touching her face in a gesture that was surprisingly tender. Now you learn what it means to be truly alive. 6 months later, Elena stood in the penthouse office that had become her second home, analyzing financial data on multiple computer screens. Her transformation from frightened housekeeper to Vincent's most trusted technical advisor had been remarkable, even to herself. The woman who now went by the name Sofia Romano bore little resemblance to the Elena Martinez who had once cleaned hotel rooms. Designer clothes had replaced her uniform, confidence had overcome fear, and sophisticated equipment had supplanted mops and towels. Vincent entered the office carrying 2 cups of coffee, a ritual that had developed between them over the months of working closely together. He set 1 cup beside her keyboard and stood behind her chair, reviewing the data she had been analyzing. The shipping manifests don't match the financial records, Sophia observed, highlighting discrepancies on the screen. Someone is skimming money from the legitimate import business. How much? Nearly $500,000 over the past quarter. Whoever is doing this is smart enough to make the thefts look like normal operational variations. Vincent's jaw tightened with controlled anger. Any suspects? Sophia pulled up personnel files and security footage timestamps. 3 people had access to both systems. Marco Rossini, your warehouse supervisor, Jennifer Chen from accounting, and Tony Moretti, your shipping coordinator. Marco's been with me for 8 years, Vincent said thoughtfully. Jennifer is new, but her background checks were clean. Tony has gambling debts. Tony also has a sick daughter. Desperate people make dangerous choices. Vincent nodded, appreciating how Sophia had learned to think like him over the months. Her insights had become invaluable not just for technical problems, but for understanding human motivations and organizational dynamics. What's your recommendation? Sophia turned in her chair to face him, struck as always by how his presence affected her. Their relationship had evolved beyond professional collaboration into something more complex and emotionally charged. Surveillance first. We need proof before taking action. I can modify the system to track every transaction in real time without alerting the thief. Do it! As Sophia worked on implementing the tracking system, Vincent watched her with growing admiration. She had exceeded his expectations in every way, proving herself not just technically skilled, but strategically brilliant and fiercely loyal. Sophia, he said, using her adopted name with the same care he once showed with Elena. There's something I need to discuss with you. She paused her work, recognizing the serious tone in his voice. Over the months, she had learned to read his moods and intentions with startling accuracy. The organization is expanding into new territory. We're moving beyond traditional operations into legitimate businesses that can provide cover and generate clean income. That sounds positive. It is. But it also means increased scrutiny from law enforcement and rival organizations. The risks are escalating. Sophia understood the implication. As Vincent's most trusted advisor, she would become a more prominent target for enemies seeking to hurt him. Are you giving me an opportunity to leave? Vincent moved closer, his expression intense. I'm giving you a choice. You can maintain your current role and accept the increased dangers, or I can arrange a new identity and safe passage to anywhere in the world. With my family? Of course. Sophia considered the offer carefully. Over the past months, her life had become comfortable and meaningful in ways she had never expected. Her family lived in a beautiful home. Miguel was recovering completely, and her mother no longer worked multiple jobs. But beyond the material improvements, Sophia had discovered something unexpected. She was falling in love with Vincent, and she suspected the feeling was mutual. "What would you prefer I choose?" she asked quietly. Vincent's facade of professional detachment cracked slightly. "I want you to stay, but I also want you to be safe." "Those desires conflict with each other." "Yes, they do." Sophia stood and moved to the window overlooking the city where her old life had died and her new one had been born. The view had become familiar, but it never failed to remind her of how dramatically her circumstances had changed. "Vincent, can I ask you something personal?" "Always." "Why did you really spare my life that night? The truth, not the business justification." Vincent was quiet for a long moment, considering his answer. When he spoke, his voice carried an vulnerability she rarely heard from him. "Because when I looked at you, I saw someone who understood what it meant to fight for family, someone who had been underestimated and overlooked, but possessed extraordinary strength. And now? Now I see someone who has become essential to my world and my life in ways I didn't expect." Sophia turned to face him, recognizing the confession hidden in his carefully chosen words. The attraction and emotional connection that had been building between them was no longer deniable. "The tracking system is activated," she said, changing the subject back to business, even as her heart raced. "We'll know within 48 hours who's stealing from you." "Excellent. But Sophia, you haven't answered my question about staying." Sophia moved closer to him. Drawn by the magnetic pull that had been growing stronger each day they worked together. "I've made my choice. And I'm staying. But not just because of the work or the security you provide my family." Vincent's eyes searched her face, looking for the explanation she hadn't yet provided. "I'm staying because somewhere in this dangerous, complicated world you've created, I found something I didn't know I was looking for." "What's that?" "Home," she said simply. Vincent reached out and cupped her face in his hands, the same gentle gesture he had made the night they met, but now filled with entirely different meaning. "Sophia Romano," he said with a slight smile. "You continue to surprise me." "Good. I'd hate to become predictable." Their lips met in a kiss that felt inevitable, the culmination of months of growing attraction and emotional intimacy. When they separated, both understood that their relationship had officially moved beyond professional collaboration. "This complicates everything," Vincent observed. "The best things usually do." A soft chime from Sophia's computer interrupted the moment, indicating that the tracking system had already detected suspicious activity. She reluctantly moved back to her workstation and analyzed the incoming data. "We have our thief," she announced. "Tony Moretti just transferred $50,000 to an offshore account." Vincent's expression hardened as he shifted back into his role as organizational leader. "Send me the complete evidence file. I'll handle this personally." "Vincent," Sophia said carefully, "his daughter really is sick." Maybe there's a solution that doesn't involve violence. Vincent paused, considering her suggestion. 6 months earlier, he would have dealt with theft swiftly and harshly, but Sophia's influence had subtly changed his approach to problem-solving. What do you propose? Confront him with the evidence. Offer him a choice. Return the money and accept a legitimate loan for his daughter's medical expenses, or face the consequences of his betrayal. And if he chooses to compound his betrayal, then you handle it your way. Vincent nodded, appreciating how Sophia had learned to balance compassion with pragmatic business considerations. Her moral influence on his decisions had been gradual but significant. I'll arrange a meeting with Tony tonight. You'll monitor the conversation remotely in case he tries anything desperate. Agreed. As evening approached, Sophia coordinated surveillance from the penthouse, while Vincent met with Tony Moretti in a warehouse across the city. Through hidden cameras and audio feeds, she watched the confrontation unfold. Tony confessed immediately when presented with the evidence, breaking down as he explained his daughter's deteriorating condition and mounting medical bills. Vincent offered the deal Sophia had suggested: full restitution plus a legitimate loan for medical expenses in exchange for continued loyalty. Tony accepted gratefully, and Sophia felt a surge of satisfaction at seeing mercy triumph over vengeance. Her influence on Vincent's decision-making was becoming more pronounced, and she realized she was helping to evolve his organization in subtle but meaningful ways. Later that night, as they stood together on the penthouse balcony overlooking the glittering city, Vincent reflected on the evening's events. "Your approach worked," he admitted. "Tony will be more loyal now than if I had simply punished him. People respond better to understanding than fear." "Is that what won my loyalty?" Vincent asked with amusement. "You were never afraid of me." "No, but you understood what I needed before I realized it myself." Sophia leaned against him, feeling secure in his arms as the city buzzed with activity below them. Her journey from desperate housekeeper to powerful criminal advisor seemed impossible, but it had led her to a life she never could have imagined. "Vincent?" "Yes?" "Thank you for seeing something in me that night that I didn't see in myself. Thank you for becoming someone worth seeing." As they stood together in the darkness, Sophia understood that her old life was truly gone forever. But the woman she had become in Vincent's world was stronger, more capable, and more valued than Elena Martinez had ever been. The future remained uncertain and undoubtedly dangerous, but Sophia faced it with confidence, knowing she had found her place in a world where intelligence, loyalty, and love could flourish even in the shadows of criminal enterprise. Her transformation was complete, but her story was just beginning.